Well, let me start off by saying I'm just stoked to be able to talk to you. I started out listening to KMFDM back at Don't Blow Your Top. So I've been a fan for many
Hi.
years. I've seen KMFDM live as many times as I can catch you. Um, I'm now in Florida, so I don't get a chance to see you quite as often, or I have to travel a little bit farther. I understand Florida is kind of a tough terrain to get into. But I've had a chance to listen to the new album, Enemy. It is fantastic, of course. There's not a KMFDM album that I don't like, or the side project. So there was no doubt that I wouldn't like this one also. So maybe I'm a little biased, but um, fantastic. Lyrical content is on point, of course. I don't think you'll probably ever run out of lyrical inspiration with the way the world is right now, unfortunately. But I wanted to ask you, what sets Enemy apart from previous KMFDM albums in your mind?
That's really a tough one to answer because it's so fresh. It's
Yeah,
kind of like if you ask me if I were a mother and I had 24 babies, and you would go like, how are they different? Well, of
which one's
course
your
they're
favorite?
different, right? So
Sure,
it's that's a question that I can answer probably in about a year's time from now when
sure.
we had a chance to play some of the songs live and stuff. What's really interesting though is the reaction of people to this album. Well, not particularly this album, but every KMFDM album. It goes like somebody says, number one, the song number one is my favorite. And the next person says, oh, number two is my favorite. No, number three is my favorite. Number four is my favorite. And so forth. So it seems, well, first of all, the outpouring of opinion on this particular release is at a much higher kind of volume than on previous releases. I have to say that.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think the track list is great. I mean, obviously you usually have what I guess you'd still consider a standout single for release, but it's a really solid track list from top to bottom. So I think
that might
that's
be
probably
that
part
might
of that opinion as well. Is lots of people are talking about and there's a variety. Not that you don't usually mix it up. KMFDM's always been pretty eclectic in your style, but yeah, solid from beginning to end.
the thing is like when we make an album, we think a lot about how to start it off,
Mhm.
how to sort of build a plateau, then take it up a bit more, and then finish it with some sort of crescendo or
Sure.
even a decrescendo.
Right.
But it seems like this time the material and the sequencing and whatever magic or juju there was in play just seems to really strike a nerve, which of course, makes us super happy. And I'm very happy with the artwork. I think it really sort of stands out.
Yeah.
Might even be my favorite.
Yeah, the
Um,
artwork is really cool. It almost has like a James Bond-esque feeling a little bit as well
yeah,
to it.
exactly. It's
Like
got a
Thunderball or
James
something.
Bondish, and it jives really well with the title. So hey, I mean, what else can you want? It's the 24th KMFDM record in the 42nd year of KMFDM's existence.
That's
There must be
amazing.
some 242424242 type of thing going
Well,
on.
it's amazing, and you guys deserve all the credit that you get. You guys are just a legendary band in the scene, and like I said, I catch every show that I possibly can. I have every album, and when I talk to other people, it's always the same. I don't generally most fans they don't have one or two KMFDM albums. They pretty much you know they're a completist, and that's I think that really stands a lot for not only your credibility as an artist but just good songwriting, good construction. um so yeah, you guys are just you know off the charts on making great great danceable beats with the ultra heavy beat. I've been a fan, like I said, for many years.
It's it's so funny when we do these sometimes we do in stores,
Hmm.
and then a couple of 3, 4 people down, the band spots like someone that has a stack of CDs like this tall,
Yeah,
or just booklets, and they go like, all right,
sure.
we're gonna go have a beer. He's gonna be busy signing fucking 25 albums and 9 singles or something. So yeah, I mean, there's a shitload of love going around, that's for sure.
Well, like I said about the lyrical inspiration, I mean, I probably
Well,
don't have to
are you
ask your I probably don't have to ask your opinion on what's going on in the world right now with fascism on the rise again. But yeah, I mean it's on point. You guys have always been a very open, politically motivated band, I think, in your lyrics. Very upfront about that, but it's definitely timely, I think, in this album in particular, um, with what's going on in the world.
Well, I mean, some people they write about diary entries,
Hmm.
how they sort of feel, and how love went wrong for them. For KMFDM, it's always a bit more on the sort of on the timeline, sort of spot on a bit. Of course, with a lot of humor and self-deprecation and all that goodness. But yeah, for us, KMFDM albums are not so much like striving for that one album, the masterpiece of a lifetime. It's more like entertainment. It's
Sure,
like we document the time that we are not out on the road whilst we're in the studio
sure.
by making songs that are like, sometimes a bit more lighthearted, sometimes a bit more serious, but you know, we always we're always in touch with like our fan base, and we talk to them, what's going on in your life, and we get so much feedback from people, and that all flows into the song making, into the lyric writing and whatnot. So I can honestly say that from all the bands that I know, that KMFDM is definitely the most in touch with their fan base, and you know, as someone put it, our inner woman.
Well,
You know,
I think your lyrics are poignant and I think they're relatable. And it's great. A lot of times, I'm one of these people. I read the news and it's all shit, and I'm in a bad mood, and you flip over to a KMFDM song, and then I feel energized again. I feel like I'm not the only one who feels this way, perhaps about things that are going on.
right.
It just gives me a nice positive vibe. So I think that resonates with a lot of people. But
Well, I mean, the reason we're making music is because, we don't want to be all depressed about what's going on, or
sure.
not because we don't want to be. The reason we're making music is we're sucking it in, what's happening in real time, and we're, spewing it around and spewing it back out, well, turning it around and spewing it back out. And we always tend to see some sort of humoristic aspect of it, and how it's all like
You
a
have to.
huge farcical game, and
Sure.
everybody's like being like big guy macho and stuff. Yeah, you know what? You're a bunch of pussies. I mean, you
Yeah, and you
know,
have to look at the world that way. If you don't laugh at it, I mean, you'd cry, right? So,
to be a dictator, you have to be a bit of a pussy too, And I don't mean that in a derogative way. I mean,
well,
well, not
it starts
derogative
with
to
being
pussies, but to dictate.
it
Well,
starts with being a dick, and then and then
right.
and then the tater comes after, I think. But yeah,
My my
definitely.
dear my dear friend Bill Rieflin, Bill from Ministry and Revolting Cocks and whatnot. His cameo name was Richard Tater. Call me Dick.
I miss that guy. He was great.
He was truly one
Everything
of
he
the
did
greatest.
too was awesome. So,
Yeah.
so let me ask you about it. There was an announcement that came out before the European tour that you had to delay it, or cancel some of the dates because of an illness. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a private matter. I never heard any more about it. Is that something you can discuss, or is that something that's just more personal?
Well, it's something that needs to be addressed, and it will be addressed, and it is being addressed,
Hmm,
but I can't really make any statement about it
I see.
until, you know, the results are on the table. So
I see.
I'm gonna I'm gonna be still about it for the time being.
I
But
understand.
a full disclosure will come, definitely.
Well, I hope since it seems to be related to health that whoever is involved, I wish them well. I hope everything comes out great. So is the entire tour kind of on hold at the moment until you work this issue out?
No, actually, the European dates have been split up. The first leg will be repeated in August, and the second
Hmm,
leg well, it was moved to March 2027, and
I see.
we're booking shows currently for October, November-ish in the States.
Okay, great.
So things can be overcome, and just keep our
Okay.
fingers crossed. Everything will be fine.
Well, I'm here with you on that one. Do you have any? Obviously, you're still, I guess, planning the tour. Do you have any surprises on this tour?
Well, I mean, this is like, on one hand, it's the continuation, of course, of the 40th anniversary tour.
Sure.
On the other hand, we have a new album to perform songs from. And so we're going to continue with the thing that we did on the last tour in late 2024, where we're going to radically change the set list each night.
Okay.
So you never know what you're going to get because we don't know what we're going to play until the morning of the show when we
I see.
basically toss the songs into the hat and
Very
pick
cool.
pick tonight's set list.
I always think that's great because, a lot of times it's a cookie cutter set list across, the US or wherever, Europe, wherever you're touring. Not KMFDM in particular, but many bands, they just kind of repeat mostly the same set. And
Well,
I like getting a unique show. So I think that's great. I think fans will appreciate that, that they get that unique set list for their town when you guys
well,
come through.
we've been guilty of the sort of cookie cutter set list for so long until we actually tried out to do it differently and then found out how actually rewarding it is
Yeah.
to just go like, all right, you know, it's not like same every night. It's just like, wow, we start with the opener. We start with the last song and we finish with the opener or something like that.
Just switch
And
it up a
in
lot.
between everything is just like, hey, I mean, there's 42 years of material
True.
to
Hard to
delve
make
into.
everyone satisfied, right? With a discography of that size to hit all the hits, right?
Right, right. And of
And deep
course,
and deep, deep into the discography as well to play some of those songs, that maybe people don't hear as often, but really have a fondness for. So
at the end of the tour, there's a very large effort being made to, showcase all of the songs that have ever been played on that particular tour. And, people can then enjoy the songs that maybe they missed, or
sure.
maybe the ones that they anticipated to hear on any given night. So yeah, it's you can never make it right for everybody, but we're trying our best to make it right for most. So
So you started out in 1984, I believe, as KMFDM. What were your inspirations musically at that point? What made you want to start a band?
well, 1984 is a long time ago, and the world for me, and obviously for everyone, was very different at the time. I was at that point, I was living about 20, 25 miles away from the so-called Iron Curtain,
Mhm.
and the specter of nuclear annihilation was on the news every night. The Soviets could overrun Western Europe within a day with their tanks and their rockets and whatnot. And so my perspective at the time was really like, why? why would anyone even, plan for a family or buying a home
Sure.
when life could be over at any given moment? So there was
Yeah.
this really intense no future moment,
Sure.
the sort of proverbial no future from the punk rock movement, but it was real. I mean, it was totally and tangibly real. So we didn't make plans. We did not look, my generation, we did not look at, you know, what are they called? The 104Ks or, future planning kind of stuff. It was just like
Sure. Live
living
for
into the
today and that's
day,
it, right?
live for the day, do some drugs, get high, get by, and that kind of thing. So I was actually surprised when I was alive after being 29 years old. That there was a definite sort of end of the time theme going through everyone's mind.
Sure.
Not so much our parents' generation who had lived through the war. They were like, "Oh yeah, things are getting better." And, we had the economical wonder years, la di da, with the help of our American friends and stuff. But that didn't really percolate down to the youngsters.
Mhm.
So expressing oneself and being loud and obnoxious and do whatever you could was really an expression of that sort of doom type of feeling.
Angst, if
And,
you will, maybe. All kind of just bottled up, and that's your outlet, right? So,
yeah, yeah, like basically, fuck everything.
yeah,
So,
sure.
um, yeah, but then like I don't know, about 15 years later, the end of the Soviet Empire just came about, and everybody started to look at the world as a place that might, turn to the better and stuff. But has it really? I don't know. I mean, the basic problems and the basic oppression and all these, wars. What do you call those? There's a word for it, like wars that are not being played out directly, but by third parties. Everything is really wrong. And what irks me the most are the attempts, not only in America, not at all, but everywhere to demolish democratic structures. And I'm
Yeah,
I'm a
that seems to be a worldwide phenomenon at the moment.
I'm a, I'm a I'm a Democrat at heart, not meaning in the sense of like
Sure,
Democrats or Republicans
absolutely.
in the understanding of an
But
American
in
audience.
democracy, correct? Yes.
Yeah, like, I think a government should be determined by the people, and a government should have the benefit of its people first and foremost in mind.
Mhm.
And there should be a security net for the ones that, for some reason just don't make it.
Mhm.
There should be subsidizing for health and for children, for daycare, so that people can, go about their businesses and, don't need to work like 3 or 4 jobs and that kind of stuff. And apparently, there's an undercurrent of anti-democratic force, whether this is in Hungary or France or Germany or the United States or you name it, that is really trying to oust the people that don't want to go along with this new sort of fascism as enemies. So our stance is, so if they want us to be the enemy, we're going to be the enemy and we're going to bring about their downfall because we are numbers. We're huge.
Yeah.
We are the artists, the writers, the journalists, the LGBTQ community. We are everyone that goes against their fucking rule,
Yeah.
and we're going to bring it down. And we're going to do it in a nonviolent way, and we're going to do it just because we're the better kind of humans. And I think that's really the point that we wanted to make with Enemy.
Yeah, and I really got that. I mean, from the opening track, I mean, it seems like it's, a statement of intent of, hey, this is where we're
Yeah.
at. Yeah, and so very impressive opening track to this album, appropriately named as well. The artwork by Brute, the artwork by Brute is just always, fantastic. So, um, he's done every album right except for one, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what
No,
happened? I always wanted to know what happened with him not doing the artwork for that one. Did you just want to try something different, or?
well, I had just moved to Seattle from Chicago.
Mhm.
He had just moved somewhere from the United Kingdom.
Mm.
I didn't know where, and somehow he must have gotten hold of my telephone number in Seattle, and he called me and said, "So you're in Seattle?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm in Seattle." And where are you? He said, "I'm in Seattle too." I said, "Well, where are you?" And he told me the address. I said, "Dude, step out on your front porch." And so did I. And he was not a half a block away from me.
Oh wow.
It's like, it's incredible. So, a German and a Brit
Yeah.
uh, just meeting somehow totally by coincidence on the same city block in Seattle was just like, wow.
Yeah, what's the odds, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but I really feel like it's been very reciprocal for you and him as an artist. You guys, I mean, you're very intertwined, and I think you basically promote each other, if you want to put it that way. Because a lot of people see it very synonymous. I know he does other artwork, and I'm impressed with that. Also, I love the style, but yeah, I feel like you guys are definitely a partnership in a lot of ways. Over the years with these
Yeah,
albums.
yeah, we do get along without talking all that much about things, I mean, I tell him what we're about, and he goes like, "Oh, I have an idea." And sometimes the idea is just like spot on, or sometimes, we have to work it out a little bit more. But it's always like, he's a very phenomenal person and very outstanding artist. So um, we kind of literally sort of understand each other
Mhm.
without talking more than I don't know, a couple of sentences.
So did you really have much input into the style of this cover as far as the design, or was that pretty much all Brute? Just he sent it to you and you're like, that works.
You mean on this particular one?
Yeah, Stone Enemy.
Oh, I just called him up and I said, "Hey, I just had this sort of idea of, one of your beautiful women characters fighting this big nasty octopus underwater." And he was like, "This is my dream come true. I always wanted to do that." I said, "All right, go ahead, fucking do it."
Well, I don't know if he did it for you, but I see a resemblance to Lucia there too. So
Oh,
in the artwork. So
it's awesome.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
absolutely great. Well,
yeah.
what's next for KMFDM? Obviously, you got a tour, you got to work all that out. Some of that's kind of moved ahead, but any side projects, anything else, or just trying to get things lined up for your tour at this?
Well, I mean, we just had the album release about a week and 3 or 4 days ago,
Sure.
and if uh, you know uh, illness had not come in the way, we would be on the road right now.
I see.
So I guess for the next couple of months, we're just gonna tread water and see how things turn out health-wise, and then we're gonna make some serious plans. I mean, we're currently looking at dates touring North America, and like I said, we have our European dates postponed but not canceled, and so I guess the second half of this year is going to be on the road, and who knows what happens then.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, we have to go back to Australia at some point. I really want to. And we also really, really want to go back to Japan.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, before international travel gets more and more difficult with, all kinds of looming threats here and there and there, this and that and that. I want to get a bunch of shows under our belt and take it from there.
So now you're living in Germany now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have a dual citizenship, or do you have to do the whole visa process before you can come over and tour?
I have to go through the visa process each time I want to come to the United States. And even though I'm still a taxpayer, even though my wife and my daughter, well, Lucia and Annabella,
Mhm.
uh, they're both Americans, I still have to undergo this tedious process, which is not only tedious, but also quite expensive.
Sure.
And I have to tell them things like when they ask me, do you plan to, start a sex trafficking organization in the United States? I'm like, no, I don't.
Not on purpose anyway, right?
Are you planning a terroristic uprising? No, I don't really. So, like I said, it's time consuming, it's expensive, it's a bit annoying, especially seeing that I'm still a taxpayer. I file my tax return in the United States each and every year. I pay taxes there, and then I have to do the same over here. So, I mean, I don't know why they didn't want me to keep my green card. But hey.
Well, so it sounds like,
Que
yeah,
sera, sera.
yeah, lots and lots of behind the scenes work just to get the tour going, right? Besides your dates.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
everything depends, everything's interdependent, right? So, you got to get approval first, then you got to get with the promote. I mean, wow, that's a lot to juggle. But you guys have done it fantastically for years, and I recommend anybody to go see you guys live if they have the chance,
Oh,
because
thank you.
always,
It's always a
always,
lot of fun.
always a spectacular show. And I've seen you in smaller clubs, bigger venues, and it doesn't matter. It's your audience goes wild, and the music is just across the board. It's the same show as far as the quality at the smaller clubs. In fact, I had a blast. I saw you guys several times at Kane's Ballroom in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Um,
Oh, Case Ballroom. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I grew up in Oklahoma and I've moved to Florida since then. But yeah, so I started out there and so saw you open for Ministry on the Mine is a Terrible Thing to Taste tour, where you had the megaphone, the whole bit, which was awesome. And
Yep.
then you brought Rammstein, which was the first I had ever heard of this band.
It's,
And I give you points. I tell you what, I give you guys points. And I said this when I was at the show. I wouldn't want them to open for me because they are just these guys are insane. Rammstein puts on such a show. And that's the first time I'd ever saw them, and I was blown away. And yet, you guys came out and still killed it, and brought the focus to KMFDM again, and it was just fantastic. And I was wondering, probably made you guys up your game a little bit because those guys really like the theatrical portion of their stuff is just off the hook to be at that point a pretty small band.
I think that was Rammstein's second United States show. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that was it was
The
just
first show was in Austin the night before, and then it was Tulsa, Oklahoma.
yeah. And you guys always bring out good bands with you. So, I always like who you guys bring along for the opening band. But yeah, I mean, people should check you out when you hit this tour. But highly recommend Enemy. I have a review coming your way from Excess Rock as well for this album, because I just can't get enough of it. I was listening to it before our interview, and it's just on repeat. So, but I
Yeah.
absolutely thank you for taking your time out to talk to us. It's on my bucket list of you're one of the people I've always wanted to speak with. So again, truly appreciate your time and your effort, and thank you so much for the amount of great music that you've put out there, and the lyrical content. I mean, you guys I always feel good about listening to KMFDM.
Thank you, Bobby. Well, can't do the lyrical content without the music and vice versa, right?
Yeah, I mean they do go hand in hand, it's I mean KMFDM is just on a constant playlist in my arsenal of music. So
All right. Thank you so much, man.